Welcome back to Quantreef.com. Bitcoin's trading around 63,557 right now, sitting right in between two liquidity walls that are pulling at it from both sides. That's exactly the kind of spot worth breaking down. Today we'll run through liquidity, support and resistance, VWAP, Fibonacci, fair value gaps, positioning, and where this is likely headed over the next several hours. Let's get into it. Price is at 63,557, and honestly the read here is neutral leaning cautious. The trend layer on our grade is soft, only 35 out of 100, which tells you structure isn't showing a clean directional push either way. We're inside a tight 4-hour range between roughly 63,150 and 63,700, so neither buyers nor sellers have really taken control yet. This is more of a coiling pattern than a trend. Session VWAP sits up at 63,734, above current price, which means we're trading under value for the session. That's typically a mild bearish tell until price reclaims it. The two anchored VWAPs from the recent swing high and low are much closer together, around 63,419 and 63,542, basically boxing price in right now. Watch for acceptance above session VWAP as the first sign buyers are stepping back in. The heat map's pretty clear about where the money is. Downside liquidity at 63,187 carries about 2.5 billion in notional and sits just 0.5% below price. That's the bigger, closer magnet. Upside liquidity at 64,246 holds around 1.8 billion, a bit over 1% away. Markets tend to gravitate toward the larger, nearer pool first, so there's a real pull lower here, though squeezes through big size often snap back hard once they're swept. On the panel, resistance above comes in 3 steps, target 1 at 64,230, target 2 up at 65,186, and target 3 way up at 66,938. Below price, support shows the 1-hour swing low at 63,286, then the stop-loss level at 62,925. Given the downside pool is closer and heavier, that swing low support is more likely tested first. Losing it would open the door toward the stop cluster and invalidate the near-term bullish red. Above price we've got an unfilled 4-hour bearish gap between 64,497 and 64,669, sitting about 1.6% away. That's got a high revisit rate near 87%, so it's a real magnet if we push higher. Further out there are 2 daily gaps up near 69 and 72,000, but those are longer horizon plays. Below us, there's a bullish 4-hour gap from 62,863 to 63,664, already about 43% filled. Price has been chewing through it already. The swing here runs from 62,267 up to 63,770, and price is sitting right inside that range near the 0.382 level around 63,196. That's acting like a pivot right now. Hold above it and the extension targets up at 64,179 and 64,699 come into view. Slip back under it and 0.5 at 63,018 becomes the next test. The card prints N78, HTS 41, readiness is decent but the underlying trend scores soft, which is why the overall grade lands neutral. Order flow and liquidity score 57, showing some balance in the tape, while volume and liquidity checks in weak at 21, meaning conviction behind moves is thin. Institutional positioning's middling at 41, sentiment soft at 31. When trend, volume and sentiment all disagree with the slightly firmer liquidity red, that's exactly why this sits in neutral territory rather than a clean directional grade. Retail's 59.5% long, and top accounts are actually leaning a bit more long too, at 60.4%, with top positions at 60.3%, so this isn't a case of retail against smart money, everyone's leaning the same way. The 4-hour taker split is dead even, 49.9 long versus 50.1 short, with about 2 billion on each side. That balance means a squeeze could come from either direction, but with longs a bit crowded across the board, a flush toward the downside pool would hurt more accounts. Given the closer, heavier liquidity sits at 63,187, That's the more probable first stop. Reach odds put it at 75% over 24 hours versus 40% for the upside pool at 64,246. If sellers push there and sweep it, watch for a reaction back up through the bullish gap towards 63,664 and beyond. If buyers instead defend and reclaim session VWAP first, the path opens toward the 4-hour bear gap near 64,500 and then the 64,246 pool. Either way, the level swept first likely dictates the next few hours. The bullish case fades a downside sweep near 63,187, entry around there, stop below at 62,055, with targets laddered up through 64,140, 64,246, and 64 for 61. The bearish case fades a squeeze into 64,246 with a stop up at 65,397, though that setup's risk-reward is thin here and its own target ladder isn't offering much room this cycle. Confirmation either way comes from how price reacts once it actually touches these pools, not before. So we're sitting right at a decision point, with two clear liquidity pools pulling from both sides and momentum too flat to call it yet. Whichever side gets swept first probably tells us where the next rail move goes. If this kind of breakdown helps, drop a like and subscribe, and if you want this same 9-layer structure, probability and liquidity read running across more than 100 coins, Quantreef.com has a 7-day trial you can try. And as always, this is for educational purposes only, not financial advice.